Hi everybody, this is Said. In my previous video, I showed you the ascending tract. One of the ascending tract is spinothalamic tract. So please watch my previous video about the spinothalamic tract. And you can see three order neurons, first order neuron, second order neuron, and third order neurons. They are connecting to each other to carrying these specific sensory information from your skin to the brain. Now I'm going to focus on this second ascending tract in this video. It is called dorsal column tract. So dorsal column tract, it's carrying the specific sensory information. They are called fine touch, fine or discriminative touch, and it's also carrying the vibration, and also it carries the conscious proprioceptive, conscious proprioceptive. So these three sensory information are carried by the dorsal column tract. So in my previous video, I showed you the non-discriminative touch or crude touch is carried by the spinothalamic tract. But here we have the other type of the touch or tactile. It's called fine or discriminative touch. What is the differences between these two kind of sensory information? So when I say fine touch or discriminative touch, it means that it's really precise. So precisely help you to detect the size and texture of the object. Imagine that in real world, if you put a coin in your hand and close your hand and close your eyes and think about it, what is this in my hand? So you can precisely detect the size and the texture of this object. So it's called fine touch. It also helps you to detect the space, the closest space between 2 points. So we have lots of fine touch receptors at the tip of our fingers, in our lips. So it's called fine touch. But whereas the crude or non-discriminative touch is less precise. So we have lots of crude or non-discriminative touch on the skin of our back. So, and then we have conscious proprioceptive. What's the meaning of the proprioceptive? So again, if you close your eyes, ask yourself, where is my upper limb, where is my lower limb in the air or in the space? You can answer it consciously. So it's called conscious proprioceptive. It helps you to detect your joints and your bones and muscles and limbs in this space. So it's called conscious proprioceptive. So those information are carried by the dorsal column tract. As I mentioned in my previous video, for the ascending tracts, we have three order neurons, first, second, and third order neurons. So you should answer these questions. Where are the cell bodies of those three order neurons? Where they are synapsing to each other, and where it is crossing or decussating. So if you could answer those questions, it means that you have learned the details of this specific tract. I will show you one by one the course on the cell body of the dorsal column tract. So like spinothalamic tract, the cell body of the dorsal column tract is within the dorsal root ganglion. So imagine that here we have dorsal root ganglion. The cell body of the first order neuron is here, and then it's a unipolar It means the uni means one axon, splits into peripheral branch and central branch. So peripheral branch is connecting to the specific receptors, carrying those information to the spinal cord. When it's getting into the spinal cord, what will happen? So imagine that if you take a cross section through the spinal cord, imagine that this is the central branch of the first order neuron of this tract. It directly getting into the dorsal column. Here is called dorsal column white column, lateral column, and anterior column or ventral column of white matter. So it directly gets into the dorsal column. That's why it is called dorsal column tract. So it gets into this area here. And it runs all the way up like this, getting into the brainstem. Here is called brainstem. Brainstem is subdivided into medulla. In the middle we have pons. At the top we have midbrain. Behind the brainstem we have cerebellum. So when it's getting into the medulla, if you take a cross section through the medulla, we have something like this. We have two nucleus on the medial. On the medial side we have gracile. This is called gracile nucleus. The lateral side, this one is called cuneate. So we have two nuclei. So the axon of the first order neuron getting into the gracile and cuneate nuclei, and synapses onto the cell body of the second order neuron. So imagine that it gets into this area, this one, synapsing onto the cell body of the second order neuron, and then it crosses the medulla from that side to this side. The acquisition will happen into the medulla, not into the spinal cord. And then it runs all the way up like this, and getting into the thalamus. And this one is called medial lemniscus. So keep in mind, first order neuron is called dorsal column tract. When it gets into the medulla, it synapses onto the cell body of the second order neuron, and it crosses and runs all the way up through the brainstem and makes the medial lemniscus. So the name changes from dorsal column tract to the medial lemniscus. And then it synapses onto the cell body of the third order neuron into the thalamus. So this third order neuron cell body is within the thalamus here. And then it projects up to the somatosensory cortex. So now we learned the way of the dorsal column tract. What is the differences between the dorsal column tract and the spinothalamic tract? The big difference is that the second order neuron cell body is within the spinal cord, so it crosses this into the spinal cord, whereas the second order neuron of the dorsal column tract is not into the spinal cord, it's into the medulla, and then it crosses into the medulla and runs all the way up. Name changes to the medial lemniscus. This is the big differences between these two tracts. And the other difference is that they are carrying different sensory information. So as you see here, this is the dorsal column tract. So this is the dorsal column of the spinal cord, which is subdivided into two tracts, two small tracts. On the medial side we have gracile tract, on the lateral side we have cuneate tract. So gracile tract carrying this sensory information from the lower limb to the gracile nucleus of the medulla oblongata, whereas the cuneate tract carrying these information, sensory information from upper limb to the cuneate nucleus of the medulla oblongata. Thank you.